So, hey guys, today I want to share with you this concept that I call a spiritual marriage. And the concept for me really was inspired by Gary Zukav's theory about spiritual partnership. Now, in that theory, he talks about that it's important that when you're in partnership, that you're in it for each other's growth. That there is an agreement that you're willing to grow together emotionally and spiritually in the relationship. So now instead of seeing challenges as obstacles, we see them as opportunities. And when I start listening to that and thinking about it, particularly with everything I've been through in my marriage, it made so much sense. And because I'm a God girl, I'm always looking for scripture to support concepts that maybe I hear outside of the word. So when I look at the scripture that says the man and his wife were both naked and unashamed, um, I think about what if God's desire for marriage is that when we enter into marriage to get back to the place where we can be with our spouse, where we are literally naked and unashamed. Because most of us enter into marriage with all of these things that we're trying to hide, right? And think about the things that we try to hide as like the fig leaves that Adam and Eve put on themselves when they originally sinned and they did something outside of God's will. And so they began to cover up who they were. And even God asked them, like, who told you you were naked? And so how many of us are truly naked and unashamed with our spouses? Can you honestly say that you're willing to reveal everything to your spouse? Are there some hurts and pains from your past that you have decided it's not important, it's not worth talking about? I've let it go. And so maybe your spouse don't even know about it. Or maybe they just know a little bit about what happened to you, but they don't know how it deeply affected you. I believe that is what marriage is really for. It is the place where God will use your spouse to one, your spouse is going to trigger that stuff for you. So it never goes away. The thing that you think that it doesn't matter that it happened to me, the abuse you suffer, the rejection, the abandonment, the shame, the hurt, the humiliation. You might have experienced this when you was like 3, 5, 10, 7, whatever, very young age. And as you've gotten older, and particularly if you're old enough to get married, you're probably thinking, listen, that happened a long time ago. I let that go. But here's the thing about that type of hurt, pain, and disappointment. You may think you've let it go, but it doesn't let you go. And so it's showing up in your marriage. And the way it shows up in your marriage is what I call soul wounds. And those wounds are what your spouse triggers in you when they show up late, when they don't call, or they don't answer their phones, or you always feel like they're doing something against you. And with that idea and that energy, you're now in a marriage where you're constantly at war with one another. So you're fighting about everything, you're arguing about everything. And you may be finding yourself saying things like, they don't understand me, or I can't talk to them about anything. So in the spiritual marriage, what I invite couples to learn how to do is we begin to get the tools and the strategies so that you can communicate what it is you're feeling, because maybe you don't even know what you're feeling. And then once you can communicate what you're feeling to yourself, like maybe you come into the awareness that like, wow, I'm still hurt that my dad wasn't there. I'm still angry that my parents got divorced, or because I saw my parents have affairs in their marriage, I am terrified that the same thing is going to happen with my spouse. So I'm treating them like they've already done something wrong and maybe they haven't. So we begin to dig up those things and those messages so that you can stop being at war with your spouse about something that really is internal. And when you begin to do that, when you create an environment in your marriage where you feel safe enough to talk about the really scary things, you feel safe enough to expose the things that maybe happened to you that you've never talked about, and you can share that with your spouse. Now you're in a spiritual marriage, because now you're both in agreement to what is really going on between you all. You have created an environment where you can share this, talk about it, have language for it. And in that place, now there's vulnerability. And now there's more intimacy and more connection. That is how a spiritual marriage works. You recognize that I am here for the growth. I am here to become more and better than who I was. And I'm here for the healing. And so if that is something that you're interested in, I want to tell you there are going to be 3 things you're going to need to do. One, you're going to have to move into self awareness. Now, many of us are conscious about what we do. That means that you know what you do when you get upset, you know how you feel when you're angry. But emotional awareness means you know why you do it, right? You know the thing that's behind the emotion, the feeling that you're feeling. You know the story that is causing maybe the upset or the discontent. And in emotional awareness, you have a larger emotional vocabulary. So you're no longer just mad, sad, and angry, but maybe you're discouraged or offended. And you begin to expand your vocabulary so that you can communicate more effectively with your spouse. The second thing you have to do is you have to mature emotionally. And what does that look like? That means few things. One, it certainly means being responsible enough for your own emotions, like recognizing that the way you feel is not your partner's responsibility. They may have triggered you, but ultimately you're responsible for the emotion. So therefore, you have to learn how to communicate that. That is emotional maturity. You have to learn how to manage your emotions in a way that everything doesn't set you off, and that the only emotion people experience from you is upset, disappointment, anger, blow up, or maybe you're the person who shuts down and go quiet and don't talk to anyone for a long time. That's not healthy either. So these are the kind of things you have to learn to do and have to have that kind of safe, loving marriage that you want, which I call a spiritual marriage. And then lastly, when you get these tools and strategies of the self-awareness and the emotional maturity, you learn to communicate more effectively. And that is the big one. That is the thing that every couple that I meet say they need. Kanisha, we need to learn how to communicate. We need to learn how to communicate. But you will not know how to communicate without the emotional awareness or without the emotional maturity. And once you get those two things, the communication will come easy. So I hope this helps. I hope that there's a way that you can tap in to who you are, who you're supposed to be, and be willing to get naked and unashamed before your partner so that you guys can move into a deeper level of marriage and have the type of successful, exciting, passionate marriage that you really want. I would love to work with you if you're interested in something like that. Feel free to hit me up. We teach a class every Sunday called Think Your Way to a Better Marriage, where we help couples do just that. I also have a book, Think Your Way to a Better Marriage, that you can get from my website, verythoughtfullife.com. I just want you to have the tools and strategies to win at marriage. And if there's any way I can help you, make sure you let me know. Thanks so much for watching. Talk to you